President Biden says Americans will just have to stomach high gas prices, quote, as long as it takes to beat Putin's invasion of Ukraine. Here he is speaking on the matter in Madrid yesterday.
If we do these things, it's estimated we could bring down tomorrow, if Congress agreed and the states agreed, we could bring down the price of oil about $1 a gallon at the pump, in that range. And so we could have immediate relief in terms of the reduction of the elimination of temporary elimination of the gas tax. And so I think there's a lot of things we can do and we will do, but the bottom line is, ultimately, the reason why gas prices are up is because of Russia. Russia. The reason why the food crisis exists is because of Russia. Russia not allowing grain to get out of Ukraine.
No, it's because you've presided for decades over a completely flawed system. Ryan, there are two levels of this, the politics and the substance. The politics is abysmal to the point where even Democrats are starting to realize the Putin price hike line, which, by the way, he is correct that this is related to Russia. There's no question about it. But the politics of it, blaming Putin when there is more to be done. There's certainly more that he could do or that he shouldn't have done in the past. This is not helpful in the midterm cycle. And then secondly, in fact, I think it's probably extremely difficult, especially on the House side, Democrats running for re-election. Secondly, this on the substance, he is not entirely correct that it's, quote, Russia. There are steps the United States can take or should have taken differently. And I just don't know if anybody's buying it.
Well, I mean, gas prices are up. Oil prices are up 40% since Putin invaded. Like it's a very real thing. Now some of it is related to our sanctions, and that was the question that had come from the reporter. And so it's Russia that invaded Ukraine. It's the United States that sanctioned Russia for invading Ukraine. And so then the question that he was asked, should we roll back these sanctions to give relief to the Americans at the pump? And so the point he's saying is no, we're going to keep those sanctions in as long as it takes to beat Russia. And so that's a particular part of it. I think that I've seen a lot from conservatives, people saying, just open up American energy.
That's what it is.
just drill, baby, drill. Like if you had just done Keystone, which is Keystone XL, which X means export, limited to exports. It's Keystone XL. Whether it would even be up and running yet, I'm not even sure. But that's a small addition to the global supply. I worry that our inability to think of these questions outside of partisan terms is making it impossible for us to actually understand the world. Like, I feel sorry for people who are like, the whole reason that gas prices are up is because Joe Biden won't let our patriotic drillers just drill in America. And that's the reason. And I understand on a surface level why they would see, okay, there were low gas prices here in 2020. Then they elected Biden, and now there's high gas prices. And so therefore, it must be because we elected Biden that gas prices are high, forgetting that, 2020, the entire global economy was shut down. Oil was at, if you remember, like negative $2 a barrel for a while. It was like zero. People, because you couldn't buy one of these tankers for free because you had to park it somewhere, and the ports were just backed up with excess capacity when it came to fossil fuels. Then the economy starts going up again, and boom, you see this massive spike in energy costs, and the idea around the world. And so the idea that if there was just if Biden was just nicer to oil companies here in the United States, that gas would be back to $2 a gallon, I think is going to just be a rude awakening for the next time that there's a Republican in the White House who has just drill in the White House lawn if you want, I don't care. And they're going to find that gas prices are still high.
You don't think that, I guess, so you would probably dispute how much drilling could be done in the United States in the interest of the environment, but you don't think that, let's say conservatives get what they want and open up America to drilling that would have a substantial effect on the price of oil.
Yeah, we're at something like 95% capacity already here in the U.S. So like, what more? Like, there's not that much more that can be done. There aren't.
But in the near term, I feel like that would.
Biden didn't come in 2021 and shut down a whole bunch of drilling projects. The only thing that he shut down was a pipeline that doesn't exist. Like, it wasn't as if Keystone XL was already producing oil and pumping tar sands down to New Orleans and then shipping it out. And then he stopped it from happening. Like, all of the low gas prices that everybody was so excited about in 2020 during the pandemic were happening without Keystone XL online. So like, it's like, so how did taking Keystone XL, how did stopping it from going online, radically spike gas prices?
But he made the regulatory environment more difficult for people domestically, did he not?
No, what made it more difficult is that just the general cost of all of these operations was getting so high. Now that gas prices are that much higher, he was like, I'm not doing any more permits, but there were like thousands of unused permits already, and that's why the left was like, well, we wanted you to de-permit these things. We wanted you to stop these projects. And he's like, well, I can't do that. And so he has basically allowed as much drilling as Trump did. It's just different rhetoric. And so changing the rhetoric, maybe you can go from that 95% capacity up to 100% capacity, but that's not going to have a huge impact. I think bigger in the long term, and this is why the partisan nature of this, it makes it so hard for us to talk about actual solutions, would be bringing Iran and Venezuela online.
100%.
It's like,
well, and that's what I meant when I said he presided for decades over a failed and flawed system. And I still think in the hypothetical, like in the near term, while you're waiting out what's happening in Ukraine, which is a decision that the United States is making, and I think he likes to, and I'm not saying it's a bad decision, but it is a decision. And I do think in the near term there could be an alleviation of the severity of the hike, but you're completely right. And on that note, liberal world order started trending after White House director of the National Economic Council said this on CNN.
For it to pay $4.85 a gallon for months, if not years, this is just not sustainable.
Well, what you heard from the president today was a clear articulation of the stakes. This is about the future of the liberal world order, and we have to stand firm. But at this,
Brian, that gets to your point.
Right. Well, this 40% increase or whatever it is at this point is about beating Russia. And what he means is liberal democracies. These are liberal democracies who are facing off against authoritarianism in a struggle for the future, and that if you want to win that struggle, then it's going to cost, and you're going to sanction a giant oil-producing state. Now, I can make plenty of arguments that the sanctions aren't the way to go. That this is now becoming a regional war between Ukraine and Russia, that the United States doesn't need this heightened level of kind of mobilization around. But that's the point that he's trying to make there.
Yeah, but the reason that we have the status quo relationship we do with Iran and with other countries that puts us in this precarious situation that we're so dependent on other economies and wars in other parts of the world for what happens in our pocketbooks is because they're stakeholders that the liberal world order is responsive to that keep things the way that they are.
Right, and there's nothing liberal about Saudi Arabia.
Absolutely not.
Or the United Arab Emirates.
Well, women can drive there.
Yes.
It's pretty liberal, Ryan.
Yeah, there you go. Some women can drive there. Yes. So if you're allowing Saudi Arabia into your liberal world order, then let's let Venezuela and Iran in too, and then if they're really going to say, look, you suck it up for $5 a gallon gas for the good of the world. At least you'd hope it'd be around climate change, but no. Although Macron tried that, and others have tried that. That's not the path forward. Like, you can't crush the working families into oblivion for their own good. and expect to be rewarded for it.
Well,
That's
exactly.
not,
And who gets rewarded at the same time? While they're being punished, the people who get rewarded are also special interests that are being rewarded as part of these contracts and these deals, that even if they are companies that are going to help us transition, they're still major corporations and they're still funneling a whole bunch of money to the top into special interests.
But people who think that there's some button that a Republican could come in and press, and all of a sudden,
Drill.
like they're drilling all over the country, and it would immediately go right in your gas tank, and prices would go down. It's just a fantasy land, and we're very likely to find that out, sometime soon.
We'll see. Yeah. Well, that does it for us today. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you never miss any content. And for those of you who like to listen while on the go, which is a lot of people, more and more, we're also available anywhere you listen to podcasts. We hope everyone has a safe and happy 4th of July weekend. And we will see you all next Friday for another edition of Rising Fridays.
All right. See you then.